Hello, my dear students, and the rest of the learners. Welcome to part 19 of a 41-part series of tutorials in Fundamentals of Object-Oriented Programming in Java. In this tutorial, we are going to be looking at Java switch control structure. My name is MemJM, or you can simply call me MLSwap. When do we use switch? The switch control structure is used to specify many alternative blocks of code to be executed. This structure is used to simplify writing many if-else statements, as it was in the case of else-if structure that we learned in part 18 of this series. My dear students and the rest of the learners, if you don't know what nested else-if statements or if-else statements is all about, kindly go to MLSwap ICT YouTube channel and watch as well as listen to part 18 of the 41-part series in this set of presentations. So we are saying that the switch statement simply simplifies the nested if or else if statements. The switch statement selects one of many code of blocks to be executed, just as it was for the nested else if. Therefore, its syntax is as follows. One is you evaluate an expression, so switch expression. If the value of the expression is x, then statement 1 is executed and the compiler moves out of the structure. Otherwise, if the expression results to a value y, then the statement 2 will be executed. And once that is done, the compiler or the translator will encounter the reserved one break and exit out of the structure. Otherwise, if the expression evaluates to z, then statement 3 will be executed and the compiler or the processor will come out of the structure and evaluate the next statement within the code. Otherwise, if neither statement 1, if the expression does not evaluate to x or to y or to z, then the default statement that will be displayed is, or the default statement is the one which will be displayed, and that marks the end of the switch structure. For example, if you have an expression like sum divided by 100, meaning pick the value in the memory location called sum and divide by 100. Now, if that expression results to a value 0, then display the message, the trainee is not yet competent, and come out of the switch structure. Otherwise, if the expression evaluates to value 1, the compiler will display the message that the trainee is fairly competent, or the processor will display the message that the trainee is fairly competent and come out of the switch structure. But if the value of the expression sum divided by 100 results to value 2, then the statement that will be executed is the one which reads the trainee is proficiently competent, and the translator will come out of the structure, or the processor will come out of the structure. However, if the expression evaluates to value 3 or results to value 3, the statement which should be displayed is that the trainee is fully competent and the processor will exit the structure. Otherwise, if the expression does not evaluate to 0, does it evaluate to 1, nor does it result to 2, and neither does it generate value 3, then the message that will be displayed is that the marks entered are not realistic, and that will mark the end of that program. Therefore, the switch statement works as follows. 1. Only one case is selected per execution of the switch statement. Number 2, the value of expression determines which case is selected. Number 3, the expression must evaluate to byte, short, char, or int primitive data, a string, or a few other types not discussed further here. The type of expression and the type of the labels must agree. Each label must be an integer literal, for example, 0, 23, or a value or a number like A. A string literal like green, but not an expression or a variable. There can be any number of statements in a statement list. The statement list is usually followed with a break. Each time a switch statement is executed, the following happens. The switch expression is evaluated at least once. The labels after each case are inspected one by one, starting with the first. That is, the value of the expression is compared with the values of each case till one of them is met. If there is a match, the associated block of code is executed. Therefore, the first label that matches has its statement list execute. The statements execute until a break or a default statement is encountered. The break and default keywords are optional. Now, the entire switch statement is complete. No further statements are executed. If no case label matches the value of expression, then the default case is picked and the statements execute. If no label matches the value of expression and there is no default case, then no statements execute. When Java reaches a break keyword, it breaks out of the switch block. This will stop the execution of more code and the case testing inside the block. Therefore, when a match is found and the job is done, it's time for a break. There is no need for more testing. Break saves a lot of execution time because it ignores the execution of all the rest of the code in the switch block. Its flowchart structure is similar to the else-if structure, which looks as follows. So, my dear students and the rest of the learners, there is no difference between the switch and the nested if. The only difference is when it comes to the amount of statements that you have to write. The switch reduces the amount of code that you would have written, but the flowchart is similar. The following is therefore a program that prompts the user to enter four scores, captures the total or computes the total, and then determines the level of competence for the trainee using Java Switch based on the sum of the values entered. The name of the program or the name of the package is switch structure. Then we have the statement which tells the compiler to use the scanner class from the package, which is import java.ithrough.scanner. Then we have the name of our public class being switch structure. And the definition for this class is one, we have a method which is called the main, and it is the public static void main. Now this function or this method will compute or is used to compute the value or the sum of the four scores and determines the trainee's level of competence. Within it, we declare 5 variables which are sum, EP, months, literacy, and programming of type integer. We also define an object which we call input of type scanner. Then from there, we prompt the user to enter the mark entered by the trainee in programming, whereby that value is read through the object called input by the function called nextInt, and that value is stored in memory location called programming. The next is to prompt the user to enter the mark attained by the trainee in digital literacy. From there, the value is keyed in by the user it is ran by the function called or by the method called nextInt through the object called input, and the value which is received is stored in the memory location called literacy. Once that is done, the next message that will be displayed on the screen is enter the mark attained by the trainee in months unit. The user will key in a value. That value will be ran by the method called nextInt and or through the input object, and the value received will be stored in the memory location called months. Once that is done, the compiler will proceed, or the processor will move on and prompt the user to enter the mark attained by the trainee in entrepreneurship unit. Once that is done, that value will be read and it will be stored in the memory location called, we have said, literacy. Then the next is to prompt the user to enter a value for months. The value will be read and stored in the memory location called months. And then, just as I have said, the program will then prompt the users to enter the mark attained in entrepreneurship. That will be read by the function called nextInt through the object called input, and the value generated will be stored in memory location called entrepreneurship, or AP. Next, the statement for computing the sum of those numbers or the sum of those values entered under EP, months, literacy, and programming will be done. So the value entered in memory location called EP will be added that one in memory location called months, which will be added the one in the memory location called literacy, and the one in the memory location called programming, and the overall result will be stored in the memory location called a sum. From there, the processor will display the message on the screen that the total score for this trainee is, it will go to the memory location called sum, pick the value there, display it on the screen, followed by the ones out of 400 marks. And then once that is done, we are going to check or to grade the student. So we are going to determine the grade based on the total of the scores entered and stored in memory called sum. So how do we proceed? We are going to pick the value in the memory location called sum divided by 100, and then check if the value in the memory location called sum, when divided by 100, generates value 0, then the processor will display the message that the trainee is not yet competent and stop any other execution of the statements within the structure. Otherwise, if it does not result to 0, it will check if the value generated results to 1. If it results to 1, the message will be displayed that the trainee is fairly competent, and the processor will exit from the structure. If it generates the value 2, it will display the message the trainee is proficiently competent and come out of the structure. Otherwise, if it generates value 3, it will display the message that the trainee is fully competent and come out of the structure. If it does not generate either a 0, a 1, a 2, or a 3, then the message that will be displayed on the screen is that the marks entered are not realistic, and that will bring the compiler or the processor the end of the switch, the structure, and the end of the program. Let's now see how to code this program in IDE, especially Eclipse. So to do that, we proceed as follows. So we are going to load Eclipse or our IDE by clicking on Start menu, and then we look for our program. That is our Integrated Development Environment program, for example, Eclipse. It can be any other, for example, NetBeans. Once you have clicked on your IDE program, you wait for it to load. And once it loads, you click on File menu, point on New, then click on Java Project. Once the dialog for create a Java project is displayed, under project name, type the name. And my name will be switch structure. Switch structure. So I'll type here switch structure. Begin with a small letter, switch structure. So that's our project name. And then you can click on the finish. Once you are there, you can right click on the name of your structure or the name of your project, like switch structure, then point on you and click on class. Under the Java class displayed, type the name of your Java class. Always remember, the name of your class should resemble the name of your file. The name of our file also resembles the name of our project. So we can type switch structure. As you can see, we are being told that type name is discouraged. By convention, Java type names usually start with an uppercase. So you can change S to capital like that, switch structure. And then the modifier is public. And as usual, because we must have our main function, we can include our public static void mainstream method. And then you click on finish. So, as usual, here is our program. Start. We have already a few lines of code here, which are common. And therefore, you can click in between package and public class and type import java.active.scanner. And then from there, you can indent your program nicely, like that. Make it easier to debug and even code. Then you can remove this comment from there, and then you can type your other set of instructions here. If you already have them in your word processor, you can just right click and click on paste, meaning that you would have copied that set of code from your word processor. So if you have typed your program in word processor, you just go there, copy your code and paste it here as I have done. Otherwise, you can also write your program directly on the IDE, so that is discouraged. If you have no word processor, you can always write it on a piece of paper, go through it while on a piece of paper, and while you are comfortable, you can move on and code it in the IDE. So from here, you can indent or you can indent your program so that it becomes easy for you to debug, to read, and make any modifications. So here is my program. Remember to debug it nicely. That way. And then we make these braces to match. And see that this one is this one here. Then this one is, can have it there. Then you can remove anything else from within your program like that. Then you can save your program and even click save as if you want to change the name or change the location. So let me just click on save. So we have saved our program. The next thing is to run our program. Let's see. Good. Our program has executed. It has no errors. So you're being asked to enter the mark attained by the trainee in programming. So just type, for example, 23, and press enter. It is asking, enter the mark attained by the trainee in digital literacy. We type, for example, 100, and press enter. It is prompting the user to enter the mark attained by the trainee in months. You can type 78. You press enter. Enter the mark attained by the trainee in entrepreneurship. Here, we can type a value like 9. And then you press enter. You can see, once you press enter, the total will be computed. And the value which will be gotten will be displayed in this statement. The total score for this trainee is, so if it is, for example, 290, the statement will read, the total score for this trainee is 290 out of 100 marks. And then from there, you get 290, the compiler or translator will get 290 divided by 100. So if the answer, the value generated is 0, it will display that. If it is 1, it will display that. If it is 2, it will display that. If it is 3, it will display that. If none of those, it will display the statement the marks entered are not realistic. So in our case, it is displaying that the trainee is proficiently competent. So my dear students and the rest of the learners, that's how we use the switch structure. Always remember to save your program if you have not saved. And then once you are done, you can click on Close or Edit As and then exit. And with that, my dear students and the rest of the learners, we have come to the end of part 19 of the series. You can proceed, listen, and watch part 20 or 41 of the series, in which you are going to learn about what we call the loop structures. And we are going to pay attention to a specific structure or a specific statement under the loop category. Congratulations, therefore, for learning part 19 of 41 on Java switch structure in fundamentals of object-oriented programming using Java. You can access the rest of the parts in the series, as well as other computer or ICT videos by clicking or tapping on MLSwap ICT YouTube channel below this video. To subscribe to the channel, tap on subscribe button below this video in YouTube if it's not currently reading as subscribed. For any further correspondence, kindly write it to us through the email mlswap@gmail.com. Thank you very much for listening to me, and God bless.